Hello, everyone. Thank you for your question. It's actually a really important topic to talk about how researchers and state governments are working um, with each other and researchers and state governments, how they actually collaborate and actually solve problems together in that climate space. So researchers from different states often collaborate, on climate-related issues, climate research, climate research projects, developing grant applications with the Australian Research Council, for example, etc. Um, and those collaborations, they often include universities, they include research organizations, they include government agencies, and there can also be industry involved, etc. So there's various different compositions of these groups that work together. And that really helps to share knowledge and share data that is produced and share expertise and really make use or make best use of this information and then really producing some really comprehensive understanding of climate issues that then can be used for appropriate decision making, for climate action, etc. So some states actually establish working groups, and they're really useful. And those working groups might focus on specific regional or cross-jurisdictional climate challenges. And these groups usually bring together experts and government officials from multiple states to work on shared issues. For example, a few years ago, together with colleagues, I co-founded the cross-jurisdictional community for climate science, and we set this group up to create some consistency in terms of how climate science is undertaken within states, and also sort of working out how the national approach to climate science, how that links in with the state level and the regional needs in terms of climate data and information that is required for decision making. Um, so state governments also often share information on climate policies that they implement, about sort of strategies that they apply and also about best practice approaches. So that's really important for governments and states, but also to learn from each other. And learn from each other's sort of successes and failures. If someone applies something and it really doesn't work, then another state can learn from that and actually say, hey, we will go and approve this process and we're going to do it better, and that might actually be successful, and then the other state can then also pick that up and follow that same process. And then if we look at um, sort of how states also undertake regional projects, so really local projects or regional projects that address climate issues. There's for example, states can work together, for example, to invest in shared projects that address climate issues in shared areas. So that could be, for example, along coastal areas that are shared between New South Wales and Queensland, for example. So certain projects or the climate issues in these coastal area would be the same in New South Wales and Queensland, or similar, because it's a shared area. And if we're looking at big storms that might come, and those coastal areas might be exposed, and we have the risk of coastal erosion that might be quite similar, and the approach to actually address that and take action and make some decisions in this context would be shared across these states in terms of that issue. State governments may also sort of coordinate climate policies to create a sort of more effective or efficient regional approach. And they may also band together to address, climate issues at the national level or even at the international level. So there could be various different levels of these collaborations, and also the purposes and aims and objectives of these collaborations between states. Um, of course, I do want to sort of talk about, it's not always easy to work together, and I'm sure you all have seen this, with group work in school, etc. It's not always easy to work with each other and this is in this context of climate issues, is already a very tricky issue to work with, but then also across states. it can be quite challenging when states have different priorities and also different levels of funding. So every state might have different kinds of budgets that are allocated to certain certain projects. So projects that might address climate issues, or climate adaptation projects or implementation projects. And then we do have to think about, all of these challenges are there, but, how can we work through this? Because there's also a lot of positives that come out of such collaborations, and it can actually really increase climate resilience and build a stronger sort of collective strength around the outcomes from this sort of communication collaboration, and then how we can address climate change. And that's really important. We need to sort of look at, all the pros and cons, and then follow the path of what we have learned, and then take that next steps and actually allocate and acknowledge what can be done better in future. I hope this helps, but please don't hesitate to send me an email if you're interested, or if you have follow-up questions on this one. Very happy to answer more questions.